I just realised my mic's muted, so that's not a great start, Christopher. I don't know if you've done that or I done that. But welcome to the Turn End Podcast 2023 end of season review. We might as well start with a dodgy end of season because we started with a really dodgy start of the season as we've done our reviews from last season. Chris, we're going to bring in you as I can see you laughing your head off in the background there. It's not a fantastic start to the end of season, but then again, if only we had the two producers on at the very start, you think it would go right. I have to apologise. Yeah, we have to apologise straight away to Mark Carolyn. He did accuse us of being late. We're 13 minutes late. That's 45 minutes earlier than we normally are. So it's not too bad, you know.
And I've got no LOI TV to blame tonight either. So apologies for that. Yeah, all day to prep for this, and then me and you scramble for exactly 5 minutes before we come on. That's typical, isn't it?
It's when we're reviewing a season like we've had. Look, it can be difficult, folks. It's not that easy. So welcome to episode 45, season 3. So we'll get stuck into it. It may not be if you, I suppose, Chris, we could say it's our last podcast, but if you believe rumors and stuff and potential that, you know, we could have another podcast in a couple of weeks. We just don't know. But as of the season to bookend it, this is the one, I suppose.
Yeah, exactly. Look, we just kind of wanted to sit back and have a look back through the season that it was. Obviously, next week we'll be doing bits and pieces with the 1903 as well. So I'm sure we'll have bits and pieces that we can put up as well. But look, as I say, we just want to have it sit back. We say we'll just go through maybe a couple of topics. And of course, you know, it's never the Turn End season review without your wheel of names to pick for our sponsorship as well. So look, for everyone that got involved in that throughout the year then as well, I suppose it's great to have that and have a show just dedicated to your special wheel.
Yeah, I think it's gone down in kind of folklore now because of Donald Hanks case from last year. So I'm really hoping we don't have that situation this season. But look, that's the luck and draw. And this is the beauty of another live podcast with Gally's Wheel at the end of it there. But look, that's what we're dealing with. Yeah. And it's nice to get first comment in from Sean Newbury, who's a regular on the show as well. So.
Well, to be fair, Daniel did come in at 2:00 today, I think, when I created the links for everything. So fair play to him. And Tin Tomato, who's been with us all season as well. You know, he's already come in with plenty of his own stuff. So you can't beat that as well. I wonder, is Frank going to use the wheel next week? Could be.
There you go, Frank. Yeah, top secret information. I'll show you how to do it.
You could be wandering around the whole country, Gally, with this wheel. This could be like a traveling circus. Like I think it's nice to be doing this kind of with a gap from the end because you know it's not like our normal end of match reviews and stuff like that where you're still kind of running adrenaline from the match. It's a lot more calmer to see, and also I suppose it bookends the season as well because we've had the FAI Cup final the previous week. We now know that Fort would have got us Europe if we had have made it that far, but it's good just to see where it landed and how far we are behind. And you know, you're only a week or so into the postseason, and you can see the moves and changes already. Amongst the league, and unfortunately, you know, the news breaking today, news that we all knew was coming as well. You know, that Daniel Kelly has left Dundalk Football Club after 5 years here. You know, I remember when he signed at the club. You know, I was still working at the club then when we were doing his interviews and press pictures and stuff like that. And I remember thinking to myself, he's so slight of frame, you know, for such a lad that I knew was playing. Yeah. And you know, he's leaving now, and he's probably still hasn't beefed up that much, but you know, he's a lot cuter of a footballer and now 5 years later than he was back then when we first got him. He's probably a lot more raw for it. Probably blighted with injuries. I think he would probably look back on that too, but I don't think, for me, you'll probably always look back on the big moments, the qualifiers in the Aviva Stadium for the Europa League. You know, he had such a big part to play in that KI game, and the FAI Cup final, you know, setting up Dave McMillan for the hat-trick, that ball where he just plays it into the middle and McMillan chests it down and comes in for the 4-2 victory over Shamrock Rovers. Like he was always part of those big moments. And that will be a loss. I suppose we started off. What we probably should have done as well is maybe have a look back in our opening one with Gavin that we have every season, where we look back with such optimism on what way the season could go and who's potentially going to stand out for us. And we talked that Conor Malley seemed to be decent in pre-season. Could he kick on and give us something? I don't think that ever really kind of ignited for him in the team. We did see like little glimpses of it. I'm thinking way back, and it's only because we've got certain elements to go through tonight. The moments of the season or matches and stuff like that. And I think back to that game in Weavers Park, the 1-0 victory. Where he finishes off that little move and kind of down and puts one in the corner. You're kind of thinking, Jesus, have we got a goal scorer and midfielder here? But it just never kicked on for him.
He just seemed to. I like it. Probably maybe flatter to deceive is harsh. I don't know if that's harsh, but there was games when, and like we've said it, he was one of those players that we said that there's a baller in there. He has a lot of talent. I mean, you can also compare to like Alfie Lewis, who probably hasn't had a massive season either that he did at Pats. But there's definitely potential there. But Dundalk fans, there's no mercy. You got to hit the ground running, especially in the middle of the park. We've been blessed with players over the years, but middle of the park. Even go, obviously Chris Shields are obvious, but we've also got the likes of Richie Towe that's played Keith Ward. We've got Keith Ward 3 occasions at Oriel Park. Maybe not as influential as you want at the minute, but I mean at the time as a footballer, a top class. When you can think of the players that come in. Even players like Hogg, and I know they're a different type of player, but in midfield, Oriel Park really it gets lifted when you have a quality midfield. If you're not showing it on a weekly basis, or in Conor's case, probably bi-weekly even, he just never seemed to go. But it is there. There's no doubt about it that the level is there. Unfortunately, didn't really get going. But I mean, like what was mentioned early on in the season, he looked a real and still does. I mean, we're not here to the season's over now. We're hammering people, but I mean, I think there is a very good footballer in there. It's just a pity. He just showed it. There was spells you could see it, but then there was just the gaps are so few and far between. It's a pity, but look, I mean, we don't know what the future holds. A player like that will probably come back to haunt you if he goes somewhere else. That's the luck we have. Like you forget you've had Will Patching come into Dundalk and not hit the ground running at all, and then you look at him now and it's that's the kind of the web you weave with if you don't hit the ground running, and we can't get the benefit out. But look, it's a fantastic player, a great player to kind of start. We're talking about players during the season, probably one of the, I dare say, outstanding names that we probably should talk about that kind of, just didn't hit the ground running for us, and it's such a pity getting that kind of role. But yeah, I think there's potential there, but unfortunately, it just hasn't worked out for us so far this season.
Yeah, I think the unfortunate thing when we look back over the season, we'll probably see injuries to key players.
Yeah,
that kind of held us back, and I'm thinking, look at our back four. Like, how often did we get to play? Like, we all thought that maybe the Andy Boyle playing beside Louis Ansley would be the best partnership, and then maybe eventually we kind of figured out Archie Davis is our best right back, and then Dara Leahy maybe on the left. And we just didn't get to see it often enough. Louis Ansley coming in, getting sepsis at the start of the season. Was a big blow as well, because we were all looking at his international pedigree and the fact he's played at that level and stuff like that. We were hoping for big things from him, and then it just seemed, just as we got him back, Boiler injury kind of kicked in and he was gone. Brownlee had to come in, and it was just Hayden Muller was playing at times in the back. In the centre too, we had Leahy, of course, for a while as well in the centre too. When you think about it, Robbie McCourt was in and out at times then as well. So it's a lot of inconsistencies in the back line, and you would say that's probably been definitely last year up to when Connolly left. That you could have picked that back four. You knew exactly what it was going to be, and there was no surprise. I suppose we were keeping that many clean sheets, or just weren't conceding that many compared to how many we conceded this year. And probably also, like we talked about it throughout the year, the record of just going behind too often. And I'd say probably when you think of those inconsistencies in the back line and new players coming into the squad, like that's probably part of the reason for it as well. I know another one, Gallia, and a player you like very well as well, but just never got a chance to really get kickstart. Paul Doyle, who we all wanted to have a good season this year, but once again blighted with injuries. I think we probably seen just at the very end of the season where he got probably 3-4 games in a row in his natural position. We probably seen the best out of him, and you like to think that hopefully he's around for next year. Try to keep us positive on this.
That's it. We want to be as positive. And then after every player we talk about, we hope they're going to be here next season. Like Paul Doyle, I think I'm hoping. And we mentioned this, and we probably got our knuckles wrapped for it as well. We said people were talking about the pitch in Oriel Park in a podcast a couple of months ago. You hope Paul Doyle hasn't fallen victim to the pitch. You just hope maybe he's just unlucky, But I think Paul Doyle, for me, if there was a player that you'd like to keep, and I know he's from the other neck of the woods, and it might suit to go kind of a little bit west with the money coming in, and Galway being promoted and stuff. But that's a player you'd really want to be keeping. I think we don't know if any of them are going to hang around. We just don't know what the state of play is at the minute. But I think fully fit, match ready to go. I really think Paul Doyle is one of the best in the league. But just unfortunately, again, if you compare to Mali's case, he just hasn't really gotten the consistency, whereas Paul Doyle hasn't really given him a chance to get consistent. Like you said, the last 4 games he's been blighted with injuries, as has a lot of people. Robbie Benson's had a shocking couple of months with injuries, really, when you think about it. But a player like Doyle, that holding midfielder, can probably play in the back of the line as well. If you get players like that, I'm trying to even think of a young player up and coming that you might be able to sign for Oriel Park. I mean, you obviously want to send in Mullen, but I mean, a midfield of those two, fully fit, it's a real start for 2024. But I mean, look, we're getting probably pie in the sky stuff already because we just don't know what's going to happen over the next couple of weeks. But yeah, like even, like Gerald says there, I think everybody, very disappointed Lee, but I think everybody at one stage, apart from probably that striker that broke the record, whose name escapes me at the minute. I think there's a big night coming up apart from him, everybody's kind of had really kind of inconsistent times in the season. And it's just been one of those seasons where players just have gone really missing. And when they've gone missing, it's gone bad. And they don't seem to be missing for 1 or 2 games altogether. It seems to be like, they've all got consistently missing around at different times, if that makes sense. So, you're not getting just that base of player, that kind of reliability, I suppose. And that's where these midfielders, we've mentioned Doyle, we've mentioned Mali, really would have came to the fore, because you need a midfielder. You need someone who's going to get on the ball and dictate the play. And we just didn't have that a lot of times. Frank has mentioned Illy Coco. I think he's got all the talent going. I really think he could be, like, I mean, if you're talking in times of League of Ireland midfielders, I think on his day, he's as good as anybody. It's just, we just kind of lucked out a little bit of an injury coming towards the end of the season.
Yeah, and I think that probably sums up the whole season. Like you said, I just think the inconsistency probably got us too often. I think when we had a run of games where we were playing the teams below us in the league, I think we fared our best. We could put on a run maybe of 4 or 5 games, and once we ended up having to play one of the teams above us, we tended to be on the wrong side of a result, and that then ended up spiraling maybe 2-3 of those games. But you think back at the team we had at the start, and the likes of Rayan Tulloch showed a lot of promise, but just no consistency again. For me on it, and I think even Cammy Elliott, we've seen in pieces what he could do, but then like his return of only 1 goal this year is probably it's a poor return for him. And as you said, just one too many injuries has really spoiled this season for us. But just a lot of inconsistencies, and I'm sure Stephen O'Donnell, when he looks back on it, that's if we're all hoping he's here next year. I feel like that's going to be the way we have to navigate this whole conversation. Will be, I'm hoping they're here next year.
We're not even sure if they've got footballs. That's kind of where we are at the minute. It's inconsistent. Like, I suppose this is probably the first season where we've probably come to the end of the season where there's potential to be nobody playing, and that's a real frightening. Like, obviously players out of contract normally at the end of the season is the norm, but even players who are signed, it looks like they won't be either. There's 1 or 2 then that could be for an early.
There's definitely question marks anyway. Yeah, there's definitely question marks on that, and I think that's the unfortunate thing. We think of how we went through the past few years and stuff like that. Like we were one of the first to put out the longer contracts and stuff and kind of change it all, but it kind of seems like we've been left behind slightly now. And when you think about it, where we could potentially have maybe 3 or 4 people there to the start of the next year for us, and that's could be a big worry. But it's hard to do this as well, isn't it? Because the elephant in the room is we talk about inconsistencies on the pitch, and it's probably inconsistencies off the pitch at the moment. Are the bit that'll really that'll hurt us as a club, because with us influx now, and you can't blame any players to be looking elsewhere because they're taking their own livelihoods on this as well. That does their futures lie away from Oriel Park? Well, if it's a guaranteed wage and maybe more money, you can see why it will. It'll probably be at the moment, anyone that's hanging around is probably the people who've got the club at their hearts, kind of saying they want to stay here and do well.
The thing, and what you have to remember is, as poor of a season, I suppose, as disappointing as a season, every player there will be in demand. Like you've got Eamon Collins there as well. I mentioned Paul Doyle. Paul Doyle, for me, fully fit, is as good as anybody. I'm not saying he's of the ilk of what's gone before him and Chris Shields, but I really think that he's potential to play in. Albeit probably Rovers can't fit him in because the amount of players they have. But I mean, every other team would Paul Doyle would get in for, and it's disappointing. But at the same time, if that's what has to be done, I mean, there's not really a lot we can do about it. That's just what we're dealing with at the minute. And I suppose while we're on this bit of a kind of sideward trajectory, we'll bring in the boy who absolutely loves a rant all the way from Chicago, the Coot Hill Bull. We're going to keep you in as long as your Wi-Fi allows, Pingu. I know you were jumping in and out there, but we've just gotten basically stuck into early season of players that kind of, not flatter to deceive, but just we've kind of gone on with players possibly leaving and, who you'd like to keep, and we don't even know what we're going to be dealing with really. But we spoke about Mali being inconsistent, and how Doyle's been blessed. I was going to say blessed, but very unlucky with injuries and Benson and stuff. So it's hard to kind of put into words kind of the next couple of weeks how it's going to go for us, because we just don't know what we're dealing with anymore.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Good evening, lads. First and foremost,
good evening, Pingu.
I'm gonna try to keep this as rant free as possible. After the last episode, I'm still getting slaps on the wrist after that one. But yeah, it's hard to know. Like this, I think we said it, Gally, on the last episode, that this is going to be the first kind of summer of unknown, isn't it?
Yeah.
For a long time, probably since 2013, when we're getting players. But it has the feeling of we're going into that break between 2011 and 2012, where, I mean, there's literally no good vibes around at all at the minute, isn't there not? I mean, there's nothing.
No.
The club asked a couple of weeks ago. The club asked a couple of weeks ago for people to back off. It seems like people have backed off, and now over the last couple of days, we're starting to see people get annoyed that there is nothing, that get away, and it's just, I mean, the only thing we've heard in the last 2 weeks is that Dickie Kelly's gone today. I think my Wi-Fi's going there. Is it all right?
Oh, you're okay.
You're holding.
It's still good. All right, perfect. It's like I feel like fucking Mike Bassett here. Where I'm a couple of seconds behind you, but what do you call it? Yeah, no.
What you don't say, Benson and Hedges were all right.
I think they might be the fucking the caliber of player we're getting next year. But yeah, it's very hard to see. It's going to be an exodus of some sort. Daniel Kelly, I think somebody said, is going to be the start of it, and I think Nathan Shepherd, by the looks of things, is next on the list. Pat Hubin, I mean, I don't want to tread over that water again. It's just a case of at this moment wait and see, isn't it?
Just a comment in there from someone called Donald Hanks. Don't know who that was. First long time listener, first time comment. Yeah. It's not real retirement, but I suppose it is when you leave Dundalk. It is retirement. I do agree.
He's up there with the rest in the retirement home. I think that's what he means.
But it's kind of it's hard to do. when we done an end of the season, we kind of said like we done the last show of the last game of the season, and you kind of even think, how do you sum up the season? Like even with, when Peak Six were in, and we had, that season, it was our first season. It was probably it was easier to sum it up because there was just so much madness. It was just so like you could have done 2 or 3 end of season shows, and this year it's kind of just petered out with disappointment and just waiting, isn't it? It's just waiting game now to see who's the next to leave. We're not going to get anybody in by the looks of it anytime soon, but it just seems to be, you've obviously got the big names like Paul Doyle's been mentioned there, the Bows. You would assume someone like Nathan Shepherd. Louis Hanelsey, I just don't know. Leahy, is there on his day, Leahy could be a very, next to probably Kavanagh or Trevor Clark, you're probably looking at one of the top 4 or 5 left backs in the country. How are you going to hang on to these? Jeez, I really don't think so. And that's the one. I seen a comment then we're going to get hard to get players in from England. Yeah, it's going to be an unbelievably difficult pre-season for Skip and the boys, isn't it? I shouldn't say Skip anymore. I'm getting slagged in the Park Cafe when I go for lunch, but I keep saying Skip. So I'm going to say Stephen O'Donnell from now on.
Must be Jerry Malone anyway. He constantly gives out to me for. Yeah, look, you would say if you look at the last few games of the season, there you would say probably Dara Leahy, Robbie McCourt. These probably are lads who. Stephen O'Donnell hasn't got in his plans for next year. Should he, should he want to be there? It's funny. I had a look there just to see how many players that we had this year. How many players we used? We used 26. Of the 26 players, there is only 11 of them played 30 games or more. Yeah. So I think that and the top ones are the ones you would think: Nathan Shepherd, Archie Davis, Ryan O'Kane, Patrick Cuban. The old reliables nearly, you would say, for us there. The rest is pretty inconsistent. That's probably mostly down to injuries and everything else. Thereafter, Robbie Court had 18 games. Louis Anzi only had 18 games. Tulloch had 19 before he went. Wardy only had 21 games this year. Andy Boyle 23. So I think that's Waziri Williams. I nearly forgot he was there. Yeah,
oh
Waziri Williams.
I was just going to say that's like a blast from the past. It's not even. Yeah. It's like, well, Jesus.
I see he popped up on Twitter and he has us blocked. Did we do something wrong there? He 12 appearances. Sam Durant 12 appearances. Brownlee, just goes to show that more than half our team consistently didn't play. Yeah, the majority of the season, and that probably says its own. And I think when you look back down through it, the Alfie Lewis, like you say, the Robbie McCourts, I don't know, I just can't see them being part of it. John Mountney, another injury-led season again, never really got back on the pitch with that bad injury.
Player. Yeah, John's one player that just wanted so badly for him to be fit and in full flight. He's like that Robbie Benson I keep saying, in full flight, John Mountney's a sight to behold. He's a top footballer, a real good squad player. I know I kind of went off on one the last time we done a live show. I think it was the end of last year at the awards. But he that is a player that's, again, fitness, just unlucky with his injuries. I think he's done 2 now, one at Pats, one here. And that, you couldn't make it up. And he's still a young man.
One at Pats was here, of course.
Yeah.
He done on a pitch.
That's it, exactly. Yeah, and we got hammered for that. But anyway, look, that's another story. But it's for him in particular, the way he plays. Look, you need to have that strength, that pace, that just kind of gung ho, and whether or not he even wants to play, or it must be so disheartening for him. But I mean, again, fitness wise, if he can injury free, I mean, he's an absolute warrior. Whether somebody picks him up, but I don't know what's going to happen there again. But again, these are players you kind of, like you say, Chris. I know Waziri Williams were kind of saying tongue in cheek, but you forget John Mountney. You almost forget that we have these players there, and it's just such a pity that we can't just get the consistency out of them, just injury wise for John in particular. But it's you kind of how's your luck sometimes, isn't it? It's really unfortunate, but that's what squad's about. But the squad just haven't picked up the slack, really, have they? That's what we're talking about, really, at the end of the day. Well, I mean, obviously, in right back terms, Archie James is definitely 100% picked up the start. You know, I think I'm not talking about John Mountney in particular. I'm just talking about in general of injuries. I think we're all covered with. I think Archie James. I think we can play with 10 when Archie's playing.
I think that was peak Townend there. Gally had a rant, had a go at himself, and then answered himself.
Just in case anybody gets on to me by comparing Mountney, I was just talking general terms of injuries at the end there. Sorry.
Gally went full Alan Partridge there.
Brilliant. Yeah. Look, I as I say, I feel it was just a season of inconsistencies that really let us down, and it's the fine margins, isn't it? We think what that gap was, as I said, Pingu, I was just saying at the start, you know, it's actually good to do it now when the dust has settled of the season, and you look back and you can see what fourth actually would have got you, because it was all pie in the sky, will it or won't it? Now that the final day, we knew it was, and we think back to that game, you know, in Talca against them, where, you know, we had the early penalty, that a man sent off, and, you know, we didn't take control of that game. The UCD game at the start of the season as well, we just didn't start on fire. We got that goal, but we never really put that game to bed. And then lo and behold, they get the free kick and get us back in. It's those points dropped there. The Bows match at home, where we 2-0 up or something, and we threw our lead away that night as well. They end up being the fine margins of what kind of showed what way the season went, I think, in the end. And there was a lot of those, the Cork match away, and we lost 1-0 as well. I know
that was a real it was a poor game in general, but that was a real low point. At that early stage as well. Yeah,
I think there was just, you know, every so often a game like that kind of kept creeping up on us.
Yeah.
And that probably was our downfall too often then. You were looking for a reaction after that most of the time. And if it didn't come, or we come up against a team above us, then it kind of knocked us off our perch, and it would take us a couple of games to try to get some sort of momentum back on ourselves again. And that just turned out to be the pattern of the whole season. But when you realize you're only, you know, at one stage we were kind of looking at goal difference and everything on the last game of the season. But Pingu, when you really look at it, like that's what the games you got to win early in the season. You shouldn't be waiting till the last game of the season for it.
No, that's it. Look, if we get decent results in 2 of them games, then it's not even in question. You know, the last game of the season is a dead rubber against UCD. You know, that kind of way where, in some ways, it kind of made the end of the season exciting. You know, that kind of way that we were going into the last game. But I would agree with you. I mean, look, you look at the first 2 games of the season. Even it was UCD at home, and then we lost. Was it 2-1 to Bows away?
To Bows, yeah.
You know, and look, it's hard not to get negative about all the close season the last 2 years in a row. You know, where Stevie's kind of maybe hasn't been given his budget on time. He doesn't know who he's signing. Where those, like I heard on the press box that James was saying that 2 players actually signed the day of the Bows game, or made their debuts the day of the Bows game. They only signed in between those 2 matches, and it takes time for players to gel. You know, and
especially players outside the league.
Yeah, well, you look at Shamrock Rovers, and I see this week everybody's kind of up in arms about, you know, there's only 1 player from Rovers in the team of the season this year, but like what they had is what we had for our glory years. They had a consistent squad, and their own. Stephen Bradley's only added a player or 2 every season to kind of enhance that, you know, and it just. This rebuild every year isn't going to work anymore, because more and more clubs are signing players to 2 or 3 year contracts, as we used to do. So that's probably. I know your question was if we won those games. I feel like more the early part of the season as opposed to the later part of the season. I feel like, you know, especially the UCD game at home, like that's one. When you compare that result to the result of the last game of the season. We'd already gone down at that point. You know, it's chalk and cheese, and even Cork City, when you look at, they've gone down now too, and we're not getting results against them. And then we picked up results against the likes of our Rovers. You know, like we had some good results against them. We had 5 goals against Pat, so against the cup winners as well in Oriel. So it's definitely been a weird season, because it's the games that you expect to win seem to be the ones that seem to be the ones that we struggled in, and then games that you'd hope for a draw in are the games that we seem to have won comfortably. And we've put our best performances of the season in, which is really the story of the season, isn't it? It's the expectations didn't live up to the expectations that we had.
Exactly, yeah, and that's it. I think should we start to get to a bit more of a positive note? Gally, we have a couple of topics. You can start throwing them in there.
Pick one there, Pingu. What are we going for? We'll avoid player of the season. Give me 1, 2, or 3, Pingu. Go on, pick one.
Oh, this is like Noel Edmonds here with the little golden postcards, isn't it? Give me number 2 there, Gally.
Number 2 is moment of the season, Pingu. Number 2 there, Bob. Give us 2 vowels and a consonant.
Moment of the season. I suppose the moment of the season is the Galway game, isn't it?
Well, yeah.
In many ways, yeah, it is, yeah.
It is, but no, I'd say for me, I think one of the highlights for me was the Pats game that we won 5-0, because I think that came kind of out of the blue, didn't it? We were struggling for a few weeks, if I'm not mistaken, before that, and to go out and put on a performance like that is definitely one that sticks for me. What about you, Christopher?
Look, I like this little round the house stuff here.
Yeah.
I don't know. Look,
there's so many.
There's well, to be fair, there's probably 1 or 2. Like if you're talking like individual moments, you just mentioned it there before, Pingu. Against Rovers in the cup, the 1-0 victory, we were down to 10 men. It's probably one of the best performances I've seen from a Dundalk, because everybody just rode in behind it. The crowd were there. I remember Cammy Elliott putting pressure on the back 4, and then they tried to clear the ball out, and he booted it from the back 4 right over to the centre of the park to put in a crunching tackle. I think it actually done him. he done his one of his muscles. That I think it might be a hamstring or something, went on him that night, and he was gonzo. But it just showed that commitment level and stuff, and that's kind of what we were looking for from the players. Like that was just a real good moment. The first Louth derby in Weavers Park as well. You had that Mally goal, but right at the end, Draw to go get a penalty, and Shepherd saves it, and everyone comes running up to him and stuff like that. That was another big moment. And then I'll let you do the other one, Gally, but I'm presuming you can't go a full season without mentioning Pat and the goal scoring record.
Yeah, I think that's Colin. I tell you what, and all the ones I had thought about, Colin Mullen, that's a great shout.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. That was so late in the game.
The season that we've had, I completely forgotten about that. It just, I remember the game, but I just remember, I don't like that.
Because everyone forgot it except for the 6 minutes of added time. That's illusion.
I was going to bring up there as well, and one that we forget that there's only a couple of weeks ago was the win against Bows.
Bows, right? Yeah.
That was probably the most negative week that we've had since since
we started the podcast.
Yeah, exactly. Since we started the podcast, but then to win in injury time in that match too, with Pat and Dickie, Dickie Kelly's Dundalk career, to win it, and it gave us that little bit of hope going into the last week of the season. And then the only other moment of the season for me that I'd like to mention is a young Cootehill man, Senna Mullen, making his debut for the
good point team.
I'll have to say that. Future. And just to mention, like I'll mention on every podcast when he's playing for Dundalk, my father coached him before he went to Oriel, so big props to Jerry Arrowsmith for getting him to where he is today.
Yeah,
over to you, Gally.
Go on, Chris.
No, I was going to say we struggled for moments at the very start, and now we've got like 20. How did that happen?
Yeah, that Colin Mullen one's completely thrown me. I completely forgot. It just shows you the season we've had. Like what you were going to say, Chris, what you mentioned was, I think all the results we've had, you've, albeit a bad, what Pingu mentioned earlier, albeit a bad Pats team probably at the time, mentally maybe, the 5-0 win's a great win. Rovers in the Cup, Galway being beaten in the Cup is probably a moment as well that you want to forget, but it is a moment. But if we're talking about standout moments of the year, it was going to happen eventually. But to witness someone like Pat Hooban, break a record,
in a Louth derby,
I know the chances of, we spoke about in depth with the Niall Newbury this earlier. The chances of a player doing that again at Dundalk or at any other League of Ireland club, is so unlikely, because you would have to be that consistent over such a long period of time. You know, good players now probably go across the water, and I know Pat had his crack over the water and came back, and you know, I just don't think in a generation we'll see the likes of that again. And for me, that's the standout moment of the season. Now, look, we've had great ones, but that would be the one for me that you were able to witness and say, look, you know, it's one of those I was there moments. I've seen his jersey going up for auction this week as well for the chat. I don't know what it's at, but I mean, if it doesn't go for a couple of grand,
over 700 anyway.
700, it's got to go twice that at least, I would think. I mean, that's a piece of history. Yeah. I don't know many Joey Donnelly jerseys going around, or even, you know, even if you go down to Martin Lawler's, this type of thing, legends of the game. But Pat Hooben's right up there, and you know, to have that in your possession is massive, because I don't think you'll see the likes of that again. I like not in our generation. I just don't see a player being that consistent. You know, like, what are we talking? 7 seasons, 6 seasons, 7 seasons? I know it's been broken up in the middle, but I can't remember any player that's been there that long. I mean, there's been players in the League of Ireland, but not at one club.
No,
you know, apart from goalkeepers, you just don't see it. I mean, I can't see it repeating itself. And yeah, Stephen, I was just going to say, there is talk of a Chicago Crude Hill Bull bid coming in. It's coming in butter vouchers, but it's going to come in, and it's going to be played on Klarna over 3 months, but it's going to be in there anyway. But yeah, no, that for me would be the moment of the season for me. I just don't. I mean, it's history. I mean, it really is. I mean, apart from if we won the league, that's probably the next best thing. But you know, that's to witness that and see it. And no, we didn't. And that's why it's not in it. But yeah, that's for me. Pat Hooben breaking the record is it's out in its own for me. Yeah.
It's like I say, it's just funny that, you know, it's only when you look back, you look at that Cork game, you know, you think of that trashing, like Bingo said, of Pat's earlier on, and how Pat's season ended up going for them. Then after, like, it's a remarkable result as well. Like, and like you say, like for Pat to equal and beat the record in a Loud derby is pretty special. I'm sure that's something.
Yeah, I know you have that picture there as well. You can hang it in the museum there with the crown, hang it in the Louvre, hang it in the Dundalk Museum there. And yeah, it's, you know, it's there, Sean. We don't know with the story with Hooben is very simple. He seems to be totally surplus to requirements. We don't really know the ins and outs. If you've seen his interviews the last couple of weeks, I know he's been kind of all over national and local press at the minute. But you know I'm assuming we're all thinking that, look, he did say there's no going back. I don't know who was the interviewer at the time, but you know, for him, I think it's water under the bridge now, and he will be moving on. And regardless of the contract, I just don't think the club can keep him on. I think that's pretty much the gist of it, isn't it, lads? I don't think there's any more movement on that as we know.
Not more than we know, as it said.
The club have to honour it, right?
That's it. That's,
you know, if we're calling spades here, like.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's it. We said it this way. I think the night you have your rant there, Pingu. Remember that? I think it was an epic night. Yeah, that's if he's going to stay, there's not really a lot they can do about it. He's been paid. So
if you're in the Liz do tomorrow night, that's what you got to tell him. Tell him, Pat, you're going nowhere. Me old pal. We want you. The owners might not want you, but the fans want you. Do you have a contract?
You can whip around now.
Might as well stay. Yeah, exactly. Dino's 1,500 quid now too, so he's not giving that if you fuck off to Galway.
Whoa. Can he go elsewhere though?
He could.
What's that?
Can he go elsewhere? Just not Galway, is it?
He might go to North.
He can go nowhere.
Well, that's it.
He did drop a hint in the interviews that he can play against Dundalk next season, so it could be all luck. You just don't know what's happening.
In an indoor game.
Yeah.
One or three now, Chris. We'll let you pick this time.
3.
Rumour of the season.
That's not. It's on Instagram. It's Rumour of the season, not on the. You have to give us a credit here, Pingu. But I tell you what, we could go for Rumour of the season if he's wanted.
What is it? No, sorry, Gally.
It's goal.
It's goal of the season. We've seamlessly done it there, as you can see. It's just goal of the season, Pingu. Go on. Goal of the season.
You get to go again, Pingu, first, yeah?
Oh, well, Chris, go on. You go first, Chris. You go, Chris.
No.
Let Pingu think of it. You go, Chris. Go on.
Right. I'll kick it off.
Keep your comments coming in, folks, as well, for all the above topics.
Goal of the season.
We might throw a pizza out at the end of the show. We might throw a pizza out.
I think the ones that jump out to me straight away, you have Louis Ansley's goal against Shamrock Rovers, that he, you know, steps out from the back, carries the ball, gets it given back to him, and suddenly he realizes how did I end up in the Shamrock Rovers box and just hammers it in the top corner in a game where we absolutely played them off the park again, and that's fairly memorable. I'm sure it's one that he'll remember. And you've got that free kick from John Martin, right when John Martin was in serious form as well, and that's there. But probably the one that pinches it for me. And it's just a pity we didn't see more of him this year. It's definitely, Evan O'Kane against UCD. When you've got someone lurking the whole game, it's good that they finally get a goal. So for me, it's Evan, yeah.
Evan. Yeah, go on, Pingu. Evan, okay.
Yeah, I think for me,
Orla's right. Sam Durant's one. Forgot it against Cork.
Yeah,
what a goal.
Here we are, lads. This has been a fucking great season, hasn't it? We're all blooming.
Skip's coming on.
Yeah, we're the only ones that'll make him smile. No, I think for me, if I was to pick one goal that was kind of standout for me this season, it would be Louis Ansley's one. It was just, it was reminiscent of our Lord and Saviour John O'Shea against Arsenal all them years ago. He's up in an area of the pitch he should never have been, but it was just, it was one of those where you're watching it and it's like, is he still going? Like, is he still going? And it ends up in the back of the net. So for me, that was my favourite goal of the season. All the rest of them were shite.
Yeah, I do. I like Orla Crilly showed Sam Durant. I
forgot all about that one.
Was that against? Who was that against?
Cork,
was it? Yeah.
Remember we beat them 5-0. Yeah.
That's a great shout. Right across the box there. That's a great shout. I had Evan O'Kane when you'd mentioned it, Chris, earlier on. We really have to stop calling him Evan. People are going to think we're getting this wrong. It's just so for context, folks. The commentators on the game call him Evan O'Kane. It's not us. The famous UCD.
The famous UCD. Oh, we'll miss them next year. No, we won't.
Whatever their names were. But
I like
the game one. Yeah, I like the Louis one. But I agree with some of the lads here, or Stephen Todd. I thought John Martin's free kick
that was a rocket.
Was an absolute bullet. And because it's John Martin, I am biased because we do have a special spot. We kind of a soft spot for John Martin in this podcast. Yeah, I think we're going to get into rumours of the season then as well. For you
the rumours of the season. We can see
Jimco popped up
before anything else, so it's
popped up with a header there. But I can keep it short. For me, John Martin's free kick was just absolute.
This is peak Townend, guys. None of us have agreed on it.
Just why we're not giving it a pizza for it. But
lads, are we giving away a pizza tonight?
We might throw a wee pizza. We might.
Player of the season.
We might throw a wee pizza.
Free pizza.
We might go wee random one day. We might give because it's the last one.
Player of the year because we'll all agree on that one.
We didn't tell
Or if you want to do Rumour of the year.
Jamie Kennedy in the comments there has a right. The other one was the IPA and the spice bags. I love the good spice bag in UCD. They were keen to let us know we're the best Brits.
Yes, we've John Martin in the mix. What would you go for, Chris?
I went for Evan O'Kane.
Evan O'Kane. The Pingu, you go the same? No,
he went Louis Ansley.
Louis. That's right. Yeah, John O'Shea. Yeah, that's right. Yeah, I mean, look, that's all. Like, if I could find Frank's comment of consistently inconsistent, that's us. That's the podcast summed up. We'll probably put that in brackets on the new tab. But yeah, I think all cracking goals. Definitely a special shout. Orla, it's not that I forgot it. I hadn't got it.
Yeah, it was definitely a good
great goal as well. Look, there's some good headers, Pat Hoban, the usual. But I think we're looking for Worldies now to really cheer us up. But yeah, I think goal of the season.
We had such a good season, like Pingu said, so it's easy to pick.
We'll probably just have to pick one. Okay, we pick one between us, or we just leave it wide open.
I'll leave it open now.
It's our choice.
Yeah. So I think we'll move on.
We've left, isn't there? This should be easy.
We have a player of the season. We have two topics. Well, two topics up for debate, but this is probably the last debate of it all for player of the season. An obvious topic.
Where'd your rumour go?
Well, we can do rumour of the season. We're going to leave it to the end.
Let's do rumour, Gally. Let's do rumour.
Yeah.
No, let's do the rumour and then let people type in. Let people type in.
We go for rumour
of the season, and then we get pizza for the players.
Yeah, I'm with Pingu in this. The people have spoken.
I'm outnumbered. That's okay.
All right, Chris, can you explain it? Because Gally was talking over me.
Rumour, God, where do we even go with this? Where do you start?
so many. Like we've had comments in already. Tods are there, and
do you know what I liked? Like, was it two nights ago? Conor McGregor put up those ask Conor things. I like the majority. Are you buying Dundalk? When are you putting the bid in for Dundalk? I love this.
Yeah, the rumour mill did start. I think the Jim Cole probably an obvious one, but there was a serious Conor McGregor kind of, not a trend, but I mean there definitely was that talk on Twitter. I was like, that's absolute mental. But I mean, look, that's what you get when you kind of every business in town. I think every business in town at one stage was linked. It's kind of, it's kind of not silly season, but when there's talk of a takeover, you're always going to get, Fifes, Rock Salt. I think might have got a mention at one stage. Mullen's Chip Shop, who are staying with the Bells, they're not going to be taking over Oriel Park. But yeah, and that's another one, Frank. That's literally the one I was going to get to. This kind of gathered pace one of the days as well. That there was kind of a head of youth development that had suggested coming over to the League of Ireland, and we kind of got the mention.
I missed that one.
So this was on. I don't know if it was on. No, there's every chance it was on Paddy Power's account, but it was on Twitter. But there was a bit of a talk on it and the development of players and loaning out and this type of stuff. I think that's probably up there with probably the best of them, Frank. I mean, and look, it's not the worst idea either, but that's probably up with the best of the rumours. I think going by the comments, I think Conor McGregor and the Forge Bar there that seems to be the one that's probably going to be top of the rumours, I suppose, is it? Unless anybody can bet that one.
I think the one for me that I don't even know if it's a rumor or something that actually nearly happened was it was almost sunny in Oriel. I don't know if anybody saw this a few weeks ago that the chairman for Wrexham was interviewed and he was saying that they almost bought a League of Ireland club, but the photograph on the newspaper articles was all Oriel Park, which again, if you're putting two and two together and coming up with Dundalk Football Club, then that's the one for me, and that seems like it could have been a massive missed opportunity when you see what they've done.
That was in the Independent or something, was it? All right, was it? Yeah, I did see.
I think it was on BBC.
Like yeah.
It was a prop one because he talked about Scotland and Ireland, and I think he referenced Dundalk. But it would make sense because it was around they bought Wrexham around the time that our friends from they're no friends of mine, acquaintances from Chicago were selling the club. So maybe there was conversations happening. That was more an interesting rumor, yeah.
But even what could have, not even the Wrexham lads, even what could have been if Hull maybe. Now look, I don't know what's good. You hear rumours of Sheld or kind of Damien Duff not getting his contract, but he got it, and more power to them. But even not a rumour, that could have been one that's actually missed.
Isn't it mad though when you think about it, like with Liam Senior interview and everything, and us name checked and everything, like that's like how far down the line was that, and it just. Massive U-turn at the last minute, like
literally, and then within weeks,
and then for everything to play out then in Shells then after, where obviously they weren't keen for Duffer to stay on, and basically they said, well, we'll take our money, okay, go, right, you're right, it's madness. It's madness when you think about it, because for all that, like the two loan signings that they got in probably got them that European, Harry Wooden, that's probably the players that done it for them, because otherwise they didn't really have a goal scorer at the squad, and I think that the two loan signings that they got in probably propelled them into fourth, got them Europe, and you'll never see them back at the club again now, possibly because
it's the irony of ironies, isn't it? It's just because we had that debate. We spent most of the podcast, myself, yourself, and Niall, talking about the possible. I know it was all negative at the time, but the possible benefits, provided there was no interference, of selection and stuff like that, and you're taking this player on loan whether you like it or not. We didn't want that end of it, but it's obviously worked absolutely perfect for Shelbourne, and that's a real sickening. Now look, Hull will think they probably dodged the bullet, but it's just so it's just the way the season has gone. We just can't seem to grab that little bit of luck, I suppose. I don't know. Now maybe I don't know if it was needed, how badly we don't know. Obviously now at the time we don't know, but now we're kind of thinking, well, it could have been a blessing at the time to get something in, because now we're in I don't know what's going on. We don't seem to, who's going to do what, who's going to take over, who's going to be there, and that might have all been sorted had we a bit the hand off the Hull owner in what was it, May, June, probably later than that, was it?
I think it feels like it was later than that, but
yeah. Well, I thought Waziri Williams played last season, so I don't know my dates from the games. So that'll tell you how long ago he was when the takeover happened.
Oh Jesus!
So rumor of the season, yeah. Look, it could be really anything. I hope that's not a rumor. I actually think that's a cracking one. You know, beside Kelly's monument, just leaning on Kelly's monument there or something. That's a cracking shout.
And what Chris Shields just behind looking for his.
Yeah, and then in 10 years' time, Jerry Howersmith's going to look out for a Sen and Mullen one in town as well, because Sen will become a bit of a legend over the years. Jerry and Sen up at Oriel Park.
Yeah,
sounds good. Are we moving on to player?
We move on to player of the season. Yeah, I think that's the only way.
Yeah. This should be an avalanche, right?
Also an option looking forward to 2024, but I don't know if there's anything to look forward to at the minute. So we
can wrap up on that one.
Yeah.
Who wants to go first, boys? I like we can go first, but I mean, I look. There's going to be one or two names you can mention, but are we going to be? I think we're all going to be consistently on this one, are we?
I'm looking at probably the last 4 or 5 comments are mostly all just Archie, and that's it's weird, isn't it? Because the right back and Archie coming in, we didn't even know if he was going to be that right back. We called it. It actually could have been Muller at the start when we wondered if he was going to be that position. But it turns out with that many other injuries, he got pulled out, and that right back slot just kind of left out perfect for Archie Davis. But when you think he came straight in from the UK, where I think he played something like 30 odd games. He played 43 games for us. That man has played 70 odd games in the course of a full season. Well, it's been a season and a half, really, because it's kind of extended because of ours. That's phenomenal, really. Yeah. And, very rarely.
Regardless of the level, that's
regardless of the level, when we look at the amount of other players that had injuries on the pitch and stuff like that, like for him to hardly ever be missing, to put in the level of consistency he did. We've seen what Arsenal he has with his assists and his crossing, to make it. And congratulations as well to Archie, getting on Team of the Year as well. It says a lot, but yeah, I don't know how you look past him really. And this is in the year that we mentioned again, Pat Hooper breaks the all-time goal scoring record, and we're talking about a right back.
Yeah, and the worry is now that obviously because he's been named Player of the Year, are people going to come, knocking, which I would fully expect. I mean, if nobody
surely he's got an option on the contract, though, right?
You'd have to think. You really hope. I mean, when you consider, I keep laughing. I know we've mentioned numerous times. I keep laughing at the fact that I hammered him after the first podcast. I just didn't see it. I didn't get what.
That's just Pinger's Hubin moment. Don't worry.
My God, yeah, I just didn't see it. I couldn't. I would with Muller all day. I just didn't get it. And then just 2 or 3 games into the season, you knew after kind of half a dozen games, maybe 8 games, that you really couldn't rely on anybody else. No, look, other boys have come in when he's been off, and it may have been a few niggles, and he's been covered pretty well. But I mean, I don't really think there's anybody being. And obviously, we're comparing him to McCarry from last season. We didn't think we would get that kind of player in again. But I just don't think there's anybody being consistent. I don't think there's any. I actually don't think there's been. Defender-wise, I don't think there's been a more consistent defender in the league. Never mind just at Oriel Park. I don't think there's been anybody as good as him. Sam Curtis is an excellent shout. Lopez as well have been mentioned. I can't remember who the other player was, but I don't think there's been a more consistent player at the back. I don't want to get into overall, but he's definitely up there overall anyway. But defense-wise, I don't think there's been a more consistent player in the league. I think he's been absolutely top class. And the worry is now that somebody might come knocking, and are Dundalk going to be able to keep? We don't know, but I mean, you'd hopefully. I mean, I'd offer him captaincy if I thought I'd keep him. That's the level we'd be talking about.
Wait, where's your captain going?
Well, we don't know, but just in case, we're just Pingu has him kept, so we're okay at the minute.
It's locked in his shed.
And even though I'm mentioning Davis, Jason Crawley, Sloggett as well. We obviously are biased here with Sloggett. I think Sloggett's had a good season as well, but I just don't see anybody. Pingu might be different, but I just don't see anybody in the race for the player of the season. Not that we're giving it awards or anything, but I mean, there's nobody really to touch him in my opinion.
Of course.
Here comes a finger brand. Here comes it. Everyone's settled back. I can see it.
No, look, I just want to knock 90 seconds out of this after Gally taking a 7-minute monologue on how much he loves Arsenal.
I'm watching the hour mark. We need to get the Christmas magic hour.
despite saying he wouldn't get a game down in the Banshock after the first game of the season, but still,
I probably did. Yeah, I probably did.
But no, I was just looking at Jason Crawley's message, and Stephen Todd was texting me there while you were chatting, Gally, and look at Archie Davies, player of the season, whatever. But I'd say for me, I think the kind of impact Sloggett has on the team can't be missed either, you know. So I'd nearly put the two of them on a level playing field. And people forget Sloggett played a large part of the season at the centre back this year as well. And he just, I feel like Sloggett doesn't get the credit he deserves, because when he first came in, he was an understudy to Chris Shields. Then he became Chris Shields' replacement, and you're replacing one of the best to ever do it with a player that, again, to me, when you're talking about Archie Davies being one of the best the best defenders in the league, for me, Greg Sloggett's probably the best box-to-box midfielder in the league, you know. So I have a hard time separating the two of them, to be totally honest. I just think we know what to expect from Sloggett, so he probably just doesn't get the credit he totally deserves, albeit on this podcast we absolutely love him. And Greg, if you're watching, or if anyone belonging to Greg is watching, please don't go. We Shells is a shithole. Stay in Orient. We're a shithole too, but we love you down here, so please don't go. But yeah, no, I just for the sake of causing an argument, I'm going to pick Greg Sloggett as my player of the season.
Ooh, yeah, no, look, I can't look. I mean, I'm not going to say I won't argue with it. I would disagree, but I mean, definitely. Like, I think, did Greg get it last year from us? Did he get player of the season last year on this podcast? I think he might.
Could easily have.
I can't actually remember.
Probably,
but yeah, no, it is. You're right, Pingu. I mean, he's been an absolute. Like, I mean, I remember us mentioning. I think was it our first year, would it our second year? Himself and Sam Stanton were kind of in the middle of the park. There's another player you probably forget to play it, and Sam was kind of getting the run on him, probably a little bit more on the ball, just the way we played. But I mean, yeah, absolutely. You know, Sloggett has been. Look, he is consistent. But I think for Davis, I just think he's been absolutely phenomenal. Like, albeit maybe the first 5 or 6 games, maybe not, but I think he's been phenomenal all season. And richly to say, I don't think there's anybody really at right back. You know, you could argue maybe Sam Curtis, but to switch over to one of another centre back in. But I don't see anybody as good as him at the minute. But yeah, so Archie Davis, unless Steph jumps in or Donald comes in and gets Greg Sloggett, that gives it an even vote here, Chris. I think the Townend podcast player of the season is Archie Davis.
I love how Mark Carlin just come in there at 10 o'clock to make a comment. He just gambled that we'll be an hour late.
Yeah, absolute chic. And I introduced the podcast by mentioning him.
Love it. I love that. So are we picking someone at random for our pizza then?
We can pick someone at random, or we can go for maybe. Yeah, look, we just pick. I don't know how many comments we have. I'm thinking there's around 40 there. I think. Like, we can pick a number at random, and I can spend the next 20 seconds counting them if you want. And just or somebody else can go to whatever.
Well, we can do that, and I can thank the sponsors then for the year if you want to do that.
Yeah,
Pingu's picking numbers tonight. Go for it, Pingu.
Give us a number between 1 and 38, Pingu.
Let's go 32. Come on, Ireland.
I knew you were going to do that. Make me count high. You knew you were going to do that.
Surely you can get that fairly quickly now.
Yeah. Cool. Yeah.
Count back 6.
Talk amongst yourselves.
I said 32 for Steve.
He's counted up from.
Away we go. We have a winner.
Double checking.
I'm double checking with KPMG of independent adjudicators.
Oh, Jesus. And it is?
It is. Fine, here we go. Jason Crawley.
There we go.
There we go.
He picked mine and yours, so
there we go.
Regular
contributor as well. So get yourself a pizza and Tony's pizza.
Pingu was counting up already to make sure the one that mentioned Greg got pizza. Fair play.
That's a nice wee coincidence for you, Pingu. Nice wee justification for you there.
There you go. I think before we do your wheel of names and we do the jersey.
Hopefully it works. Yeah.
If anyone's seen what happened before, this is the reason we're 7 minutes late in starting the show. We want to extend a big thank you to Donald Green. And obviously, Donald's been main sponsor for the podcast for 2 years now. And when we came on with Dundalk Village and this year, along with, Carl and Player Fit, we kind of wanted to take that to another level. And we done the jersey that Gally has on there tonight. And to be fair, everyone was brilliant rolling in behind it. We probably haven't talked this enough, lads, as well. We set ourselves a target that we would try to pay for, a semester for a school in Uganda, through the funds raised from the jersey, and we've done that and a little bit more. So like that's so from us just here as spouting on the podcast and everyone kind of coming along as a great little community to actually have a positive impact back on the world and elsewhere. I think that's just an amazing achievement for ourselves. Even I'm looking at all the names up and down here, and these are the people that come on board with our player sponsorship every year as well. So a big thanks to everybody for doing that for us as well. We hope to keep going ahead with this as long as everyone is happy to jump in. I think we'll continue to do a player sponsor. It's good for us and the community here on the show to contribute back to the club when we can, as well as doing other things like that as well. And of course to Vinny and everybody in Tony's Pizzeria for our man of the match competition for the full season and for the past few seasons now as well. Vinny loves to always have a good chat to you when you're going looking for the pizza, but I kind of put that into my time that it takes me to pick up the pizza now. An extra 10 minutes has to be over to have a chat with Vinny. But it's good, and you think how much he's backed the sporting community in town and stuff like that, and it's just good to all just give him a plug and a shout out. And if anyone is at a loose end for a bit of grub in town, make sure you pop into Vinny there and mention the old pod, and you never know what could happen. So we're not saying
you're guaranteed a discount, but you
might get a couple extra chips. That's the influence we have around town. And look, I already mentioned about Carl in Player Fit. Obviously, he's done the jersey for us, but he's always had the merchandise throughout the year and stuff like that, from when we had the hoodies and t-shirts and stuff like that. And their hats, of course, we had at the start of the year. So it's completely stunned seeing you at the back, pal. But just wanted to say a big thank you to everybody and to our sponsors, and hopefully we do this all again.
Brilliant, well said, Chris. Yeah, absolutely. Pingu looks like he's going to jump in there, is he?
Yeah, he does, doesn't he?
Come on, Chris.
That was it.
I'm all right. Go on ahead. Just thanks to all the sponsors. Thanks to everybody for watching.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's a mic drop moment there.
We attempt to get this jersey. So obviously with our player sponsorship folks for the town enders, we have a jersey. It's the black and white or the black and red player fit away jersey for Craig Sloggett this year. Now I'm just going to attempt to do this.
So Gary, when you did the trial, who won?
So when I done the trial before I started, I won it. So it's not great. So I'm hoping now that this will just tone. So folks, I'm going to let it just run for another 5 seconds, so it's nice and it's nice and spun around. So whenever I'm going to spin it, I'd love to see Donald Hanks with it. God love him. But look,
if he wins it this year, lads, we just give it to him.
It should pop straight up on screen. So here we go. 1, 2, 3.
Go for it. It's a good
he's
spin.
He's not on, is he? So he could win it.
Do we get the 3 lights on the bottom like the lottery?
What are the chances? What have we got? Alan Hanks. He's going to be absolutely sick.
Is that worse for him?
Yeah, that's actually that's probably worse for Port Ormond.
Congratulations, Alan.
So it is Alan Hanks.
Congratulations
to the Hanks family.
Is the brother of Donald Hanks.
I love this show.
I let it run past names because I don't want it to just start on one name and go on another. So Alan Hanks, Donald Hanks, if you're listening, Merry Christmas.
Oh God,
that's. I remember we had a comment earlier, and you said it was peak town. That is peak town end podcasting. Sorry,
his cousin.
Sorry, he's not. I do apologize.
Donald just messaged me, lads. He said his name is actually Donald Alan Hanks. So who knows? It might have been. He might have left out the first name there, Gally.
Oh my God! Of all the things, like I tried purposely to avoid Donald, and I'm just landed on a family relative. That's just that's peak town end here, folks. I don't know why he's all listening. I'm not gonna ladies.
That is brilliant.
Yeah, that is a perfect way probably to end our end of season review. I think. Yeah, we couldn't really put any better than that, could we, lads? My God.
But it's not the end of us.
No, it's not, Christopher.
No, as we mentioned at the start, we'll be. I actually more on this. That wasn't the end.
I knew what you were getting at. I know what you got at.
So obviously next Friday night, Thursday night, we swapped it. That's right, because we're not around. So Thursday night we will be there for the 1903's end of season awards. So Frank is apparently taking your wheel for Thursday night. So there you go. Just take everybody's name who turns up, Frank, or is part of the 1903 and put them on that. For rent. Yeah. So look, we'll be up in the Lily White on Thursday night. If anyone's around, definitely get up, as Orla just says there, and get up to Oriel Park on Thursday night for the 1903's end of year awards. Of course, you can come up as well if you're not part of the 1903, and I'm sure there'll be an area if you want to sign up to be part of the supporters club as well on the night. Usually good crack on the night as well. There's some players normally knocking around. I'm hoping they're the ones then that's contracted that are still knocking around. So look, it's not the full end of us. If anyone has any contracts, maybe get the players to sign it as an autograph, and then they're contracted at the club. Snaky in. Thanks, Frank. Doors open at 7:45, and we hope to start the show around 8 o'clock. I don't know if we can stream it or anything, but Frank, we'll definitely record it anyway, and we'll have it out for everybody then after, and you can watch everything back. So that will all be available.
I think that's it, boys. That's a perfect wrap up, isn't it, lads?
That is.
And I suppose it is our end of season.
We've got another rant, have we? No,
more rants. It is our end of season review, but then we could, like I said, we opened the show. We could end up having a show where there's a takeover or there's something happening, or
if something happens, we'll pop back
before Christmas. Yeah.
This is our end of season review, but it's not the last show of the season.
Yeah, it's the end of the season review until something happens.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that's it, lads. I think we'll end on that, will we? Thanks for everybody for listening as well. So it's I know it's a Thursday night, and I know Colin Mullen thought it was a Friday when we started. He probably missed a day's work or something. But look, it is a Thursday night because it's just worked out better for us. But lads, look, it's been great. 45 episodes of we would have liked an extra one maybe after the FA Cup final, but look, that's I think
it's like 140 episodes.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah. Imagine 140 listening to us. They can't even get a spin of a wheel right. You can't even keep it away from the Hanks family. Yeah, look, thanks for everybody for listening. And I think we'll just end it on that, lads, won't we? And probably the only thing to say is we'll see you next Thursday night. Until then, come on to town.
Anytime.